about to have a treat right now, y'all.
No, we're
this
not.
This is going to be a real treat.
Mr. Mann's getting tired.
We got Ginger on top.
That's not how it's supposed to go. I've earned the right to be on the board.
At this time, we ask that you please rise for the academic procession and the St. John's College class of 2025.
Please remain standing for the national anthem. Please take your seat. Welcome to the 2025 St. John's College Commencement in Annapolis. We're now opening the 233rd commencement ceremony at our college. Welcome to the members of the class of 2025, both undergraduate and graduate, to your families and friends, and to our faculty and staff. They are all here to bear witness to your graduation and to celebrate your achievements. We also have with us today a few special guests whom I wish to recognize. We're pleased to welcome members of the Board of Visitors and Governors, Tia Posick, Andy Rear, Josh Rogers, Johanna Wilson, and St. John's College Alumni Association President-elect Brett Hefner, whose hand you will be shaking today. Remember, once you've crossed the stage, you go from being students to alumni and are lifelong members of the Alumni Association. I would also like to recognize Assistant Dean Robert Abbott, who is concluding his term this semester. Dean Abbott walked with you most of your journey, and I want to thank you, Robert, for the care you've shown to our students. You, the undergraduate class of 2025, started at the college during a pandemic and end your time in a world unsettled and disordered. It is a time that tests the foundation of the college and the country, our beliefs in rationality, in civil discourse, in testing ideas, in making adults out of children through books, a balance, and long discussions. During the last 4 years, the class of 2025 has reshaped the college as it came out of the pandemic. It has imbued this campus with vitality and energy inside and outside the classroom, and has paved the way to increase student involvement and leadership on campus. It helped plan the renovation of Edensworth Hall and spearheaded the renewal of the Mitchell Museum. It reinvigorated croquet and brought back tennis, fencing, and many reading groups. It helped lead sustainability efforts and ensured that theater and music performances touch our hearts. As you leave the campus this afternoon, we will miss your resilience and can-do spirit, your willingness to embrace new adventures, whether of an intellectual or practical nature. Your insights, imagination, and energy have benefited our college, and now you will face and embrace a new adventure with the same vigor. In the last 4 years, your tutorial and seminar readings have turned from 2,500 years of experience, wisdom, and perhaps occasional incisive frivolity Jonathan Swift and some Shakespearean colonies come to mind, to the Federalist Papers, the constitutional structure of our republic, and later Lincoln and Frederick Douglass's reimagining of the concepts of membership and citizenship. Institutions of higher learning are built on the promises of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In an early draft, James Madison summarized the fundamental rights inherent in the First Amendment as follows, quote, "The people shall not be deprived or abridged of their right to speak, to write, or to publish their sentiments," end of quote. The discussion of great books and ideas presupposes the right to receive, possess, and read them freely. It is the tutors over generations, not the government, who have chosen the books we read, and you, over the last few years, have shaped and molded every conversation in every classroom. It has been the promise and guarantee provided by the First Amendment and implicit in the Constitution that allows us at St. John's College to read and discuss the texts our tutors have chosen. As then President Stringfellow Barr said in May 1941, quote, "The true end of free government is to make liberal education possible." In the aftermath of the Second World War, the rights to freely receive ideas and share one's viewpoint became a universal aspiration, as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights sets out the right to freedom of opinion and expression. That right, it says, in quotes, includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media, regardless of frontiers, end of quote. Since then, those values have guided democracies and shaped their values. Not always have countries lived up to these ideals, but they have served as the lodestar. Some of the books and many of the authors we read suffered for their ideas and words that you've dissected and discussed under these trees and in these buildings. Galileo lost his freedom, as Spinoza was excommunicated. Einstein and Freud lost their home countries. The Nazis burned their books and those of Marx and Kafka. The USSR banned Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex. And some US libraries have refused to include Charles Darwin, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Frederick Douglass's writings in their collection. They're all part of the St. John's program. Books can cause great discomfort, but if the ideas are worthy of discussion, we must have them, to test and challenge these ideas, to learn from them, to grow as individuals, to develop our own freedom. That is what our curriculum and our faculty promise. And that is how they've nourished you over the last 4 years. To be an adult, to be a citizen in a democracy, we deserve no less. Before we move on to the next part of today's ceremony that is focused solely on celebrating you, I want to ask the class of 2025, undergrad and graduate, to please stand up. And then I want you to do the unusual thing of turning around at commencement. And I want you to look at the people, the very people who've made this day possible. Those people who love and support you. Your parents, your partners and spouses, family members and friends who deserve your collective gratitude for having laid the foundation for your journey to St. John's. They helped make it possible for all of us to be here today, to watch as you, in a few minutes, walk across this stage. Those celebrating with you today and those who've supported you along the way deserve a standing ovation from all of you. And now I ask you to turn around again and take your seat, please. We shall now proceed to the announcement of prizes and presentation of student awards. I will ask the Dean, Susie Paulman, to present this year's awards and the Assistant Registrar, Jordan Fries, to assist in their presentation. Prize winners should come forward to the platform when called. Those receiving honorable mention should please stand for recognition.
To the member of the senior class who has written the best senior essay, offered in memory of Susan Irene Roberts of the class of 1966, Catherine Greer. Lucas Markovitz. Honorable mention, Justin Kelly. To the member of the junior class who has written the best annual essay, offered by Mrs. Leslie Clark Stevens in memory of her daughter-in-law, Catherine Mallory Stevens, Jasper Birch. Honorable mention, Megan Scally. To the member of the sophomore class who has written the best annual essay, offered under the will of the late Judge Walter I. Dawkins of the class of 1880, Charlie Mann. Honorable mention, Jacob Sharp. To the member of the freshman class who has written the best annual essay, Annika Bolding. Honorable mention, Davin Ferris and Claudia Fernandez. To the Graduate Institute student who has written a distinguished tutorial essay in the 24-25 academic year, offered in memory of Lawrence Burns, Lolita Bondar. To the Graduate Institute student who has written a distinguished preceptorial essay in the year 2024, offered by the Alumni Association, Mark Lovell. To a member of the senior class for excellence in speaking, offered in memory of Senator Millard E. Tidings of Maryland, Elad Nichols Kaufman. To the student who submits the best English version of a Greek text, offered in memory of John S. Kiefer, President Emeritus, Davin Ferris. To the student who submits the best English version of a French text, offered by the Board of Visitors and Governors, Elad Nichols-Kaufman. To the student who submits a fine original English poem, offered by Dr. George Austin in memory of his brother, Henry, Caleb Briggs. And Helen Wagner. To the student who submits a fine original musical composition, offered in memory of Mary Joy Belknap, President of the Caritas Society from 1987 to 1991, Tariq Mahmoud. Honorable mention, Marcina Hawkins. To the student who submits a fine essay on a piece of music, offered in memory of Mary Joy Belknap, President of the Caritas Society from 1987 to 1991, Magnolia Vandiver. To the student who submits the most elegant solution of an analytical problem, offered in memory of James R. McClintock of the class of 1965, Max Dreyfus. Honorable mention, Ancient Gontumor. To the seniors who, through participation, leadership, and sportsmanship, have contributed most to the St. John's College athletic program, a special blazer, Georgia Gallardi-Petard and Evan Hamilton. To the member of the senior class who has contributed outstanding service to the greater Annapolis community, offered by the Caritas Society of St. John's College, Tia Peterson. To the member of the senior class who has demonstrated the greatest care for and service to youth who reside in the city of Annapolis, offered by the friends and family of Marvin B. Cooper of the class of 1969, Sarah Thayer. To the senior who has demonstrated excellence in the arts, literature, or sciences, the Walter S. Baird Prize, Fiona Guinness. And Yukyong So.
Thank you, Dean Paulman. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speakers. This year, I thought it important for the seniors and all of us to hear from one of their own. Two names emerged from this discussion, both held in high regard and both individuals from whom the students wanted to hear. As it seemed unfathomable to choose, a compromise emerged. And in true Johnny fashion, Georgia Green and Amos Alwa will present together, appropriate enough in conversation with each other. Welcome, Ms. Green and M. Alwa.
Good morning, everyone. It's a real honor to be speaking to you this morning.
On behalf of the graduating class of 2025, we're delighted to celebrate our achievement with you today.
This achievement is all the sweeter because of the presence of our family, friends, tutors, alumni, and everyone who contributes to our college community.
In particular, it is difficult to overstate the impact that the public safety officers, janitorial, and dining hall staff have had on our St. John's experience.
We have always been able to count on PubSafe to let us into our own locked rooms, to turn on the fire in the fishbowl, and to take on the overwhelming responsibility of campus safety. Similarly, it is a remarkable gift to wake up in the morning to a clean bathroom and filling food, to smiles in the hallway and at the dining hall.
You might note their absence here today as they serve breakfast this morning, make sure that our community is safe as hundreds of spectators flood the campus, or take a well-deserved day off from maintaining our common spaces.
Whether your relationships with college staff have been limited to smiles or have grown into fully fledged friendships, none of our experiences of the school would be the same without their dedication and kindness.
We would like to sincerely thank these members of today's audience and ever-present members of our college community.
Although we had many supports and much encouragement, graduating college, whether undergraduate or graduate, is not an easy task. Throughout our time at the college, we have all faced collective and personal challenges that make our graduation today an immense achievement.
These challenges came from both within and without the campus and the program. We would like to take a moment to acknowledge a small but hopefully representative list of circumstances that the graduates in front of you have collectively overcome.
Several of today's graduates spent a year or more outside of the college and ultimately made the decision to return. They decided that the program was right for them and dedicated more than 4 years of their lives in order to cross this stage today.
Many of us spent time as student workers, working both on and off campus while also maintaining high standards of academic excellence. This demonstrates admirable skill in time management, commitment to oneself and one's communities, and a dedication to one's future.
Many students transferred between campuses, choosing to explore both the country and the broader St. John's community, a worthwhile endeavor that, nonetheless, is not for the faint of a socially anxious heart. Whether you joined our class from Santa Fe or came back to us after a brief sojourn to the Southwest, we're happy to be graduating with you.
Many, if not all of us, have experienced disruptions in our mental and physical health. These disruptions made it hard to attend class, engage with difficult material, and have faith that we would be present here today. Yet we believed in ourselves, sought help, and ultimately persevered.
As you may know, while in class we refer to each other as Miss Green and M. Elwell. This poses a unique challenge for students who, for one reason or another, have changed their mode of address or who have needed to consistently remind their classmates of the correct pronunciation of their names. This takes a tremendous amount of bravery and self-reflection.
We have experienced loss and have sacrificed moments with parents, relatives, siblings, and partners. We have missed birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries in service of an education that expands our minds. We want to give a special thank you to those on the other side of these relationships and this sacrifice. Those who sent cards instead of giving hugs, who quickly learned not to call between 7:30 and 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, and who are always thinking about the next happy reunion.
On that note, these sacrifices have only been amplified for the many members of our class who have traveled across oceans to be here. Having moved a measly 3,000 miles away from our home, we two Oregonians want to thank our international classmates for their endurance in jumping over bureaucratic hurdles, in bridging time zones, language barriers, and cultural canons. Your participation in class has enriched our conversations, and our interpersonal relationships with you have broadened our horizons.
We are all here as individuals with unique backgrounds which shaped our decision to attend this college. Many of us chose to do so knowing that the texts we read would not directly address our experiences and perspectives. We would like to acknowledge those of us who had to wait until senior seminar to hear from authors who share our identities, as well as those of us who signed on to the program knowing that they would never hear their perspective through an author's voice.
But why have we chosen to make these sacrifices? To take on this program that demands so much of us, and to choose every day to meet the challenge head on, to show up, to engage earnestly, and to listen.
We are a group of resilient people who are more than adequately equipped for this challenge. But the challenge itself justifies these sacrifices, and as you can see, has already rewarded us quite handsomely.
As a class, we've approached difficult texts and topics from Euclid and Aristotle to Einstein and Du Bois, and we leave the school well prepared to continue approaching difficult topics wherever we find ourselves next. We've learned to read listeningly and to honor a plurality of voices. We've learned to sit side by side with our dearest friends and our most challenging acquaintances.
Congratulations to each and every one of us who felt the familiarity of any of these circumstances, and congratulations to all of us for receiving our degrees. We have learned to understand and honor ourselves as learners and social individuals who all contribute our own fine and beautiful threads to a global tapestry.
Now comes the time to consider what kind of a mark our threads will leave, what we will adhere ourselves to, what we will stand for, and what we will not tolerate.
As we step across this stage, it is tempting to think that we have completed our education. Nothing can be further from the truth. We should be proud of what we have accomplished. We should reflect on the things that we have learned and the ways that we have grown as people. But it is imperative to acknowledge that this is only the beginning of a life of learning.
This is our challenge. Are we able to continue to ask questions of ourselves and others, to confront ourselves, to stare our experiences, biases, fears, hopes, and dearly held beliefs in the face and examine them? This kind of reflection is difficult amid the minutiae and chaos of daily life, but we've been practicing it for 4 years. We will continue to contemplate ourselves. We must keep learning.
As Stringfellow Barr, one of the founders of our program, said in a 1941 address at this college, quote, "Let us note that colleges like St. John's were not established to teach men useful ways of making more money than their neighbors, nor, on the other hand, to teach them the useless but decorative charms of pure culture they were to teach them to practice the liberal arts, to use their intellects, to reflect, to make choices, in order that a free society might be able to govern itself wisely, freely, and justly, and not fall prey to government by force. Our practice of the liberal arts is therefore necessarily political.
The political nature of our education is acutely felt by our community, as students and institutions of higher learning come under fire. Especially for international students, daily activities have recently become overshadowed by anxiety about the potential for their visa status to change without warning or provocation, as has happened to over 1,500 students across the country this semester alone. Many of these impacted individuals and many of our international students are looking to improve their own and others' lives through conversation, study, and critical thought. As for domestic students, ourselves included, the standard anxiety of a graduate school admission is now compounded with a new anxiety about whether affordable, well-funded graduate programs will become a relic of ages past.
The ways in which our studies are materially impacted by politics raises the question of how and from where the next generation of teachers, researchers, and thinkers will arise. How will we and our generation learn to be the thinkers Stringfellow Barr alluded to in 1941? As we heard earlier, Barr's imperative for graduates of his program is that we use our intellects, reflect, and make choices.
To our fellow graduates, now is the time for reflective choice. The privileged position of student within the Johnny bubble is no longer ours. While we previously confronted despotism and authoritarianism only theoretically, with Machiavelli, Hobbes, Tocqueville, and Marx, Stringfellow Barr anticipated precisely this moment when we step foot into a world riddled with the consequences of an unengaged public and a self-serving, power-hungry executive branch. Let us remember Barr's injunction for reflection and action, and let us heed Marx's pointed description of the purpose of scholarship. Quote, "The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it."
Although this is a moment of great anxiety, we graduate into a larger community, a larger polity, that, however startling it might be, we have been a part of this whole time. We will continue to have roommates and next-door neighbors. We will continue to be part of a community that stretches beyond state lines and international borders. We have some questions to ask both of you and of ourselves about how we will act as a part of that whole. How should we act in a country, in a world seized by fear? Will we support those being threatened? Will we extend humanity to everyone? Or will we allow ourselves to restrict our care out of fear or disagreement? What does it look like for you to stand up for the basic human rights of your neighbors? Our neighbors are having books removed from their libraries and schools. Our neighbors are being disappeared without due process. Our neighbors are having their rights stripped away from them. And when our neighbors' rights are trampled on, so are ours.
Our present situation is one which encourages us to feel fear and anxiety about something as simple as a conversation with a neighbor. Machiavelli, a little-known proponent of individual liberties and collective struggle, tells us that never was anything great achieved without danger. Our anxiety is an indication that conversation is precisely what this moment calls for. Today's graduates are more than equipped to initiate and facilitate these interactions, perhaps even with our families and friends today. The founders of our program understood conversation for what it truly is, revolutionary.
Thank you to everyone here for joining us. Thank you again. Now it is time to celebrate our graduates, the great efforts that have been put into making sure that we cross this stage today, and our individual and collective steps into a brighter future. Thank you once again.
Thank you, MLL and Ms. Green. It is now my pleasure to introduce the tutor chosen by this year's senior class to speak, Margaret Kirby. Ms. Kirby's tenure at St. John's began on the Santa Fe campus in 1990 before she joined the Annapolis faculty in 1997. She holds a bachelor's degree from King's College, master's degrees from Dalhousie and Oxford University, and a PhD from the University of Toronto's Department of Germanic Languages and Literatures. Welcome, Ms. Kirby.
My warmest welcome to all, and my wholehearted congratulations to today's graduates. Who's there? Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself. Who's there? The opening question of Shakespeare's Hamlet seems an all too ordinary one, more the stuff of endless knock-knock jokes than the opening of a great book or a commencement address. We are so constantly called on to identify ourselves that we hardly hear the question. We respond or enter our name in the appropriate box without further thought. But in the uneasy state of Shakespeare's Denmark, the answer is initially withheld. The watchman insists that the questioner first identify himself. Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself. The question is reframed as a command for some sort of disclosure. At the same time, unfold yourself challenges the audience or reader of Hamlet. Is a self really something to be unfolded like a piece of cloth or paper? What could that possibly mean? Is each of us, like Odysseus, inherently manifold or even complicated, as Emily Wilson translates Homer's wonderful adjective polytropos? Are we inherently infolded, to borrow a term from Darwin's notebooks? Were you challenged to unfold yourselves at this moment, some of you might identify yourselves as members of the class of 2025. You are about to add BA 2025 or MALA 2025 to the many folds of which you're comprised. In the coming weeks and months, today's graduates will begin to acquire new folds and to answer the question, who's there, somewhat differently. At times, you may wonder uneasily just how to answer that question. Visits home can make places we once felt part of feel strangely alien. Travel initiates new forms of self-disclosure and occasionally prompts King Lear's despondent question, does any here know me? Altered circumstances in which our familiar self suddenly feels foreign to us challenge habitual self-certainties. Why, this is not Lear. Taking on new roles may provoke more urgent questioning. Reduced to monosyllables, Lear asks, who is it that can tell me who I am? Who's there? As anyone who has ever written a personal statement knows only too well, efforts to unfold the self often threaten to unravel the fabric completely. Lear's question, who is it that can tell me who I am, haunts us all. As your friends and families watch you graduate today, they may trace earlier layers of your manifold self. Perhaps they will even glimpse that elusive it, the essential thing that seems to constitute the distinctive twist of your fabric. On the other hand, they may simply wonder at how much you have changed, finding it hard to grasp that this is the child, the parent, the friend they remember, the classmate with whom they looked into the belly of a fish, or parsed Euclid's definition of same ratio. How quickly we accumulate new folds and wrinkles. Lear is surely not mad, but simply all too perceptive when he challenges those sent to hunt him down and restore him to his former self. Come, and you get it. You shall get it by running. What then if we adopt a more agile approach to the question? What if, abandoning notions of identity and self-sameness, we attempt, as Montaigne proposes, to paint the passage, to trace the shifting motions we call I or me? Montaigne describes his own approach as multi-perspectival. I present myself standing and lying down, from the front and the back, from the right and the left, and in all my natural folds. Montaigne's self is not only multifaceted, but inherently porous. His natural folds absorb, digest, incorporate, and excrete. They are not only permeable, but essentially metabolic. No bountiful mind, Montaigne writes, stops within itself. It is always stretching out and going beyond its powers. Its food is wonder, pursuit, ambiguity. Such metabolic activity is the most fundamental life function. In freshman lab, you observed the transformative moment in embryonic development when the blastula folds in on itself to create a gut. Aristotle posits that it is precisely the capacity for nutrition that distinguishes living from non-living beings. That said, it is not easy to determine just what sort of absorption characterizes metabolic activity. Aristotle proposes that a distinctive feature of nutrition is the ability to take in what is unlike and make it like oneself. The 20th century microbiologist André Lvov, whose account of cellular metabolism seniors recently read, echoes Aristotle. Lvov claims assimilation, or the action of making like, is, quote, a discriminative feature of life. As water absorbs salt, it becomes simply increasingly salty. What happens to us as we ingest, both literally and figuratively, the world around us? Lvov discovers that a bacterial cell has selective permeability. It synthesizes enzymes that control the ability of various materials to permeate the cell wall. This complex capacity to interact with a world outside themselves means that at some basic biological level, living beings don't so much absorb as respond to the world around them. They are always in dialogue with what surrounds them, with what's there. Recently, my Graduate Institute students and I considered de Tocqueville's claim that democratic ages and institutions tend to cultivate impermeable atomic cells. Democratic traditions lead one, he suggests, to seek the reason of things by oneself and in oneself alone. De Tocqueville says such autonomy isolates individuals. Quote, everyone encloses himself narrowly within himself and insists on judging the world from there. Is there any alternative to this atomism? As we explore electromagnetic phenomena in junior lab, we're compelled to rethink our notions of body and space. Using iron filings to trace the lines of magnetic force in the space around a simple bar magnet, Michael Faraday speculates, quote, the medium or space around the magnet is as essential as the magnet itself, being a part of the true and complete magnetic system. Faraday coins the term magnetic field to describe the space surrounding a magnet. Any portion of space, he concludes, may be taken as such a field. As Maxwell translates Faraday's work into mathematical language, bodies emerge as modifications of a continuous electromagnetic field rather than discrete entities. This field or medium, quote, pervades all bodies and is modified only in degree by their presence. Maxwell compares the electromagnetic field to, quote, a complicated mechanism capable of a vast variety of motion, but at the same time so connected that the motion of one part depends, according to definite relations, on the motion of the other parts. These motions being communicated by forces arising from the relative displacement of the connected parts in virtue of their elasticity. This essential interconnection of all parts of the electromagnetic field is the basis of the equations Maxwell develops to describe this field. But What has electromagnetism to do with the question, who's there? What have fantasies of a unified field to do with you and with me? We seem to have ended up out in left field. It shouldn't require elaborate digressions into electromagnetism to establish that we are somehow fundamentally connected to and with one another. We establish roots, make connections, form lasting friendships and relationships with one another. At the same time, I'd like to suggest that the paradigm of the field points to deeper patterns of continuity. Electrical charge is never simply isolated. What appears to be an isolated charge is really a matter of polarity in the surrounding space or medium. Action at a distance turns out to be something of a misnomer. There are no gaps in the field. Influence may weaken with distance and time, but is never simply broken off. Towards the end of George Eliot's Middlemarch, Dorothea has a mystical vision of sorts, although what she sees is a quite ordinary scene. As she opened her curtains and looked out, Eliot writes, she could see figures moving in the field. It suddenly dawns on Dorothea that the world is a continuum. Quote, she felt the largeness of the world and the manifold wakings of men to labor and endurance. She was a part of that involuntary, palpitating life and could neither look out on it from her luxurious shelter as a mere spectator, nor hide her eyes in selfish complaining. As Eliot's language suggests, field work always remains a task for us, involving manifold wakings to labor and endurance. It takes work to be part of the whole. It is often so much easier to insulate oneself in a Faraday cage or simply to disconnect. In their time at St. John's, today's graduates have demonstrated a keen sense for all manner of fields and great aptitude for fieldwork. In recent weeks, no matter how hot the King William room, you faithfully attended classmates' orals, aware that your simple presence made a difference. You were there. On the soccer field and the croquet ground, on the stage and in chorus, in countless other commitments on and off campus, you took part in activities in which each member was integral to the whole. You were actively there. Perhaps above all in class, as you turned to one another and to the question on the table, infolding your voice with the voices of others, a unified field took shape. At times, as you pursued possibilities that lurked in the folds of a question, perhaps you even forgot who was there. Complicated as it was, you continued turning to the text, to one another, to the work of ingesting, digesting, making the unlike like, undergoing your own transformations as you did so. This field is not simply a metaphor, but neither is it simply a given. Perhaps it's our life work. It's a task that requires patience and demands thoughtful labor on the part of each. It's neither a matter of submerging oneself mindlessly in some group, nor of heroic self-assertion. It involves continual tuning and being tuned, turning and being turned. Lear's turning, his fieldwork, begins outdoors in a storm. His head is bare. He feels a penetrating wind and cold. My wits, he says, begin to turn. And then I think Lear begins to discover who's there. With the simplest of words and the simplest of questions, he takes up the human work of weaving a manifold. My wits begin to turn. Come on, my boy. How dost, my boy? Art cold? Am cold myself. A commencement is a beginning. May this commencement be for you and for us all, the beginning of turning and being turned, of infolding and being enfolded in a manifold world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby. It is now my honor to introduce our next speaker, His Excellency, former Prime Minister of Latvia, Krišjānis Kariņš. Dr. Kariņš, a member of the class of 1988, attended St. John's College for 2 years before earning his bachelor's degree summa cum laude and a PhD in linguistics from the University of Pennsylvania. He started his own company prior to entering Latvian politics, serving for 10 years as a member of the European Parliament, as a deputy in Latvia's parliament, Minister of Economics, then Prime Minister, and briefly as Foreign Minister. Dr. Kariņš is now a senior advisor to CREAB Worldwide, a global advisor in strategic communications. In 2022, Mr. Kariņš received the Alumni Association's Award of Merit for a, quote, extraordinary advocacy of freedom and democracy and service to the people of Latvia as Prime Minister. And as a freshman in 1984, Dr. Kariņš received an honorable mention for the best freshman essay. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful introduction. It's indeed a tremendous pleasure and honor for me to be here and to have the opportunity to address you, the graduates. And I'll start off with a little question. It happens in this school. What is a successful life? What is success? Internally, externally, how do you measure it? How do you gauge it? How do you strive for it? Well, the short answer is, I don't know. And I suppose I could end my address there, but that feels a little short. So what I have learned over the course of now 60 years is that success isn't something that just happens. It's something that you continually have to work for. Life, I mean, you're young, I'm a little older, and you've probably been knocked down 1 or 2 times. But the way I see it, in life, you will get knocked down. It's going to happen. And then when you get knocked down, you will always have a choice. That's the beautiful thing. So you're knocked down. Choice A is to despair, to give up, to go into self-pity, blame someone else, blame the government, disown the situation. The other choice is a lot more difficult. It's not to give up, it's in a sense to get up and get moving again. I think it's happened to all of you already a number of times, and the way I see it, it's a little formula I keep in my mind. It's very simple. Anyone can learn it, and you can even teach it further. I call it N plus 1. So N being the number of times life hits you down, and plus 1 is the number of times you have to get up. And if you can live by that formula, your peers will say you're actually rather successful. Now, to give a little flavor to that, I guess I mean, we had a wonderful, wonderful speech based on tremendous thinkers and writers. I'll take just some humble experiences from my own life to illustrate. So I was here as an undergrad, 84. I'd forgotten about the freshman essay. That's pleasant. But I remember in my sophomore year when we got to Descartes and was reading about motion. And I remember that when Aristotle wrote about motion, it was, I mean, so many tutors here, I'm embarrassed to try to say what I remember. But he was talking about the potential becoming actual. It's rather complicated. And Descartes, he kind of abstracted away the movement of an object from an unmoving point reference A to a reference B. And I started to ask myself, not what are they saying, but why are they saying it? I mean, was Descartes really that much more clever than Aristotle? I doubted that. And I thought, well, it must have something to do with the language and the culture that each was living in. After all, they were separated by quite an expanse of time. And I went out of the program, and I went into the University of Pennsylvania, where I read that they had a program in linguistics. And I thought, this is the question I'm going to now strive to answer. And what happens as soon as I start studying, I read that there's a Sapir-Whorf hypothesis that postulated exactly what my question was. And very clever academics had shown that this was simply not quite the case. And to me, intellectually, that was a big N, right? I was knocked down. I had left St. John's to ponder the big question, to realize maybe it wasn't quite the right question to ask. So I had a choice. Despair, oh, woe is me, or to say, well, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? What is it that I need to ask? And I started to get into linguistics. One thing led to another, and they gave me a PhD and said, there's the door, please move on. And when I wanted to move on, I thought, well, where would I want to put in my energies? And I grew up in Delaware, not far from here. My parents came from Latvia. During the Second World War, there were children, refugees, they fled there. Latvia had become independent in 1991. I got my PhD in 96. In 97, I read, I had friends who were telling me that the University of Latvia was opening up its first assistant professorships, post-Soviet occupation. I sent my PhD. I already had academic publications in journals that were considered respectable. I sent everything. I already gave up my job. I moved to Latvia with my wife. She's from Riga, from the capital city. I attend the meeting where they decide who's going to be professor. And I quickly realized that of all the candidates, I'm the only candidate who's not on the board of deciding who's going to be the professor. Mildly put, I was in a state of shock. Unsurprisingly, they disqualified me by pointing out that you had to have 10 years of experience teaching to be an associate professor. Of course, I didn't have 10 years. I could, kind of squander up 4. And that was the big N number 2. Knocked down on my back. I thought I would take everything that I had learned, that this great country and its institutions helped me to learn, and bring that to Latvia. And that opportunity was denied. So what do? Oh, woe is me? Or the harder one? Look at the situation, think again. And I realized that being a professor at the University of Latvia would have been grand, but doing something to help this young and struggling country that, among other things, at the time had a selection procedure like this, they really needed, I thought, another shoulder to help push them along. And so I thought, well, if they're not going to give me a job, I'll just make my own. And together with a friend of mine, we created a frozen foods distribution company. Now, for a bunch of Johnnies sitting there and everything that you've been reading and doing for the past 4 years, and I had, okay, only 2 years here, but I had spent a few years in academia, preparing myself for a different life. Here I am, making ice, and figuring out how to distribute ice so that it doesn't melt before the person buys it in the shop. And actually, I found that really exciting and interesting. The company became actually quite successful, and I kind of was proud. I considered I was able to sell ice to the Eskimos because I was exporting to Finland. I thought that's about as close as you can get. So I'm doing all these fun things, and then I read in the newspaper that the governor of the Bank of Latvia, he was a young guy, he's a year or so older than I am, but we were all young back then. He said he was going to leave his post as the governor of the Bank of Latvia. He was the founding governor. And he said he was going to create a political party that is going to fight corruption, and with only one entrance criteria. Thou shalt not have been a member of the Communist Party. And I thought, of all of the things you could ask me, having grown up in Delaware, if I had wanted to be a member of the Communist Party, I had no idea where you even look for them. So I thought, hey, I'm qualified for this job because I was not a communist. So I call the bank of the governor, the president of the governor of the Bank of Latvia. I somewhere publicly found his office telephone number through two secretaries. To my utter amazement, he answers. I hesitated. Hello, hello. I understand you're forming party. Yes, I am. Are you interested? Yes, I am. Do you have any ideas? Do I have any? Oh, yes, I have some ideas. Can you get them on paper? Yes, I can get them on paper and get them back to me. So for the next 6 weeks, my wife thought I was a little odd that in the evenings, instead of spending time with her, and we already had a couple of kids, that I was writing. What are you writing? Oh, just writing. And I had been in business, and I thought, well, I would write what a party platform, what should be done in business differently or better than was done before. And one thing led to another, and I ended up writing an entire platform for a new political party. And I sent it to the governor of the Bank of Latvia. The next day, I get a telephone call. Are you busy tomorrow evening? Well, I made myself very unbusy. And I was invited, and I became one of the, we were, I don't remember, 10 or 12 founding members of an organization that eventually became a political party. And they then asked me, would I put my name on the list when the elections were coming up? Sure, I'll put my name on the list. Someone has to be there. And then I got elected. And I thought that was interesting. I was in business, and I had written a program for a party. Actually, the party pretty much adopted my program. They made many, many improvements, of course. Then I was the lead. I was the whip of our party, and effectively ran the coalition in the parliament. Then I became the minister of the economy. That's right. I did that for a couple of years. And then we ended up in opposition. And in politics, it's interesting and exciting when you can create the laws and move things. And when you're in opposition, it feels very hopeless. And that was another big wham. My goodness, this isn't what I had signed up for. I thought I would sign up to do some public good, not to just criticize the government. I mean, anyone can criticize the government. But again, do you give up or do you rethink? And I stayed on the rethinking side. We looked at all the things that we evidently did wrong, why we lost support. I ended up running then for the European Parliament. Latvia has, at the time, had 8 seats out of 750. Latvia is a relatively small country. And I became one of those 8 people from my country representing us in this huge, huge parliament. And that I found very interesting, a way to do public service. And I was doing that, I ended up doing it for 10 years. Had lots of fun, met great friends, and maybe someone thinks I did some good. I certainly would hope that I did. And then it was now 2018. My political party, the one I had co-founded, we were down in the polls to 1.6% approval rating. In Latvia, you have to have 5% to get elected into parliament. So my political party, the elections are coming up in October, no chance. And my colleagues, they turned to me and they said, well, would you come and run as the candidate to be prime minister for our party? And that's a pretty big ask of someone, especially someone who is used to being a parliamentarian, not in an executive now. I agreed. And I thought my goal and the party's goal was to bring 1.6% up to 5.1%, or even 5.01. It gets you in. Well, we ended up getting 7.6%, which got us 8 seats out of 100 in the parliament. And I thought, my goodness, I'm at the top of my game. I did it. You know, you're welcome. You're in parliament. And I can continue my wonderful job in the European Parliament where, you know, when you work somewhere for 10 years, you learn a thing or two if you're not completely asleep. And it was Christmas time. And there was a problem. See, after the elections, the parliament was very divided. The largest party had only 16 seats. There were 2 of those. And we were the smallest party with 8, and a bunch of parties in the middle. The first person who was given the chance to form a government failed. The second person failed. The third person from the third party failed. Number 4 and number 5 said it's impossible. Parliament is too fragmented. We have too few votes. I can't do it. And then it was just at Christmas time. I remember I was visiting my sister. I remember where I was in her house. I get a phone call. It's from a politician from the largest party in Parliament at the time. And he calls me and he says, I have some bad news. Well, what's the bad news? Well, we decided we want you to be prime minister. And then I said, well, who is we? You and your buddies or your party? Or he said, no, our party and 4 other parties. So I ended up forming a government with 5 coalition partners, having only 3 seats in the government. So I had a minority of votes in the government. I had laughingly no votes in parliament to support me. And in politics, it happens the world over. The name of the game is set someone up, knock them down. That's just how it works. I understood that that's what they were trying to do. So I took it upon myself to say, well, how long can I delay that inevitable fate of them toppling me? Well, one thing led to another. I happened to pick up the torch when all kinds of crises started to happen. I inherited a banking oversight crisis. We did a huge reform, an administrative, the territorial reform of the regions. COVID happened, and leading a country through COVID is mildly put a little bit of a challenge. Many people learned to hate the government because of the polarization. You know, are vaccines good? Are vaccines bad? Shouldn't we live naturally and die at 28, or should we live unnaturally and live to be 100? And these are very real things, and people get very fired up about them, and I was sort of in the middle of all of that. We had on our country's southern border an incursion from Belarus, where the Belarusian authoritative government was flying people from Syria to Minsk, putting them on buses and physically forcing them with pretty thuggish-looking border guards across our border. We had to seal up our southern border with Belarus. Then the war between Russia and Ukraine started, and Latvia is a neighboring country of Russia. You can imagine how comfortable everyone felt when that happened. And when the next elections came around, for some odd reason, I ended up winning those elections. And from 8 seats, we got 26 seats, which in Latvian politics is a lot. No one gets more than 26, 27, the way the electoral system is set up. And then I formed a second government. And when I formed the second government, after about a year, I realized I only had 2 parties, 2 partners, and they banded up against me. So again, it was a choice. Decision-making was completely paralyzed. But I knew that if I succumbed to them, I could stay in power, another full term. And I was the first prime minister to go full term in my country. No one has done it before the war or also today. But I went into politics and agreed because of the ideals, incidentally, the ones that I also really picked up on here at St. John's. That's why I was there, to do some good, not to be in power. But they were not letting me do what I wanted to do. All I could do was stay in power or find a way to change the situation. And I did find a way. I negotiated a second coalition, saying goodbye to my current 2 partners and taking on 2 different partners. And then I had a choice. Do I stay in power? Power has, you read about it, but when you actually get it, it's a seductive and weird thing. Is it corruptive? Yes. It has that potential, tremendous potential, to anyone. And then after I negotiated the government, the new one, I stepped back and encouraged one of my party members to take over the lead. And in life, you'll continually be faced, and you really can't know the future. You will have situations which you thought would never come up. And you'll always have that choice. When it smacks you, do you back down? Do you give up? Do you find a way out? Or do you do the hard thing and soldier through in a way, but find a solution? And if you continue, as you have proven to yourselves over the course of the past 4 years, that you know how to pick up when things are looking pretty bad. And if you can do it intellectually, you can certainly do it in the rest of your lives. That if you live by that formula, N+1, people around you, your family, your friends, and maybe even yourselves will start to say, hey, I think I'm actually pretty successful. So to round off to the graduating class, I'd want to say, don't be afraid. Speaking in terms of Plato, don't settle for the shadows on the wall. We're all in chains. The goal is to break those chains, turn around, as you were asked to turn around at the beginning of the ceremony, face the light, go out there and do some good in this world, and have some fun along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cairns. We will now move to the conferral of degrees.
Let the 2025 candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts stand. Dean Paulman, the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts stand before you.
I, the Dean of St. John's College in Annapolis, Maryland, bear witness that these scholars have successfully applied themselves among us to humane letters, philosophy, mathematics, science, languages, and music. That they have passed the period of their course in our halls, that they have been called to examination in the presence of members of the college and the public, that they have abundantly proved themselves well-versed in all these studies.
We, the president, the dean, and the tutors of St. John's College in Annapolis, Maryland, in accordance with the order of the trustees, in this public session on the 10th day of May 2025, bear witness that these scholars have reached the degree of Bachelor of Arts. In witness of this, we have on this aforesaid day and year subscribed out names to these letters, which have been confirmed by the Great Seal of the college. By command of the Board of Visitors and Governors of St. John's College, I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
The 2025 graduates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts will come forward as their names are called.
Maliha Anthony, Albertus, Pennsylvania. Disha Arabati, Belmead, New Jersey. Riley Bain, Forest Lake, Minnesota. Solomon Barish, Berkeley, California. Catherine Bates, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Esther Beeland, Fairfax, Virginia. Geffen Ben David, Tacoma Park, Maryland. Ankit Bata, Kathmandu, Nepal. Whitney Bixby, Dallas, Texas. Senya Borovikov, Ellicott City, Maryland. Joshua Bozorth, Severna Park, Maryland. Lorelei Breeden, Windsor, Pennsylvania. Balaram Bryant, Alachua, Florida. Caleb Briggs, Belfast, Maine. William Brindley, St. Michael's, Maryland. Carolina Butkute, Florvåg, Norway. Xingye Kao, Tokyo, Japan. Emily Caswell, Annapolis, Maryland. Dongha Cha, Suwon, Republic of Korea. Faith Chang, Clarksville, Maryland. Hain Cho, Seoul, Republic of Korea. Emma Cunningham Bradshaw, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Flynn Cutter, Santa Cruz, California. Marie Dabouville, Caux, France. Nigus Dowett, Burtonsville, Maryland. Jiaochen Deng, Atlanta, Georgia. Cassie Desmond, Garden Valley, Texas. Harrison DeWalt, Fogelsville, Pennsylvania. Jack Demansky, Purcellville, Virginia. Josephine Dowd, Austin, Texas. Catalina Dueñas, Long Beach, New York. Helen Eastman, Houston, Texas. Amos Elwell, Boring, Oregon. Colleen Fabb, Ponchatoula, Louisiana. Helen Felbeck, Radermark, Germany. Errol Foster, Puyallup, Washington. Georgia Galati Petard, Denver, Colorado. Amado Garcia, Portland, Oregon. Niovi Genediou, Kalathea, Greece. Georgia Green, Portland, Oregon. Jackson Green, Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Catherine Greer, Akron, Ohio. Rayon Gui, Jianjin, China. Fiona Guinness, Blue Hill, Maine. Evan Hamilton, Maryville, Tennessee. Tyson Hammer, Boca Raton, Florida. Yuchen Han, Beijing, China. Emily Hart, New Braunfels, Texas. Rachel Hauben, Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. Owen Healy, Spring City, Pennsylvania. Merritt Hendrickson, Redlands, California. Rebecca Heil, Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. Jack Huntley, Lake Forest Park, Washington. Ibrahim Ismail, Kano, Nigeria. Michael Jeremaz, Napa, California. Naraya Johnson, Colombo, Sri Lanka. Candace Jones, Fort Washington, Maryland. Colin Jostler, Cleveland, Ohio. Miroslav Junger, Arlington, Virginia. Jordan Kammeyer, Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Kelly Kane, Easton, Maryland. Benjamin K., New York, New York. Galile Kebede, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Justin Kelly, Leesburg, Virginia. Munir Korati, Allentown, Pennsylvania, upon completion of requirements. Changyu Kim, Daegu, Republic of Korea. Yejin Kim, Busan, Republic of Korea. Matthew Lallinger, Houston, Texas. Sarah Lawrence, Grove City, Pennsylvania. Rosaire Leon, Oakwood, Georgia. Elion Levy, Austin, Texas. Isaac Lim, Incheon, Republic of Korea. Tariq Mahmoud, Darwood, Maryland. Keaton Mampara, Washington, District of Columbia. Lucas Markovitz, Ardmore, Pennsylvania. Julian Marks, Narbonne, Pennsylvania. Margaret McConnell, St. Thomas, United States Virgin Islands. Evan McMullen, Arnold, Maryland. Joseph Meyer, Brick, New Jersey. Ivan Michaels, Arnold, Maryland. Oscar Miller, Pennacook, New Hampshire. Daniel Nathan, Dunwoody, Georgia. Noah Navarro, Jersey City, New Jersey. Elad Nichols Kaufman, Indianapolis, Indiana. Chloe Nijelski, Prince Frederick, Maryland. Magnus Oberg, Waltham, Massachusetts. Christopher O'Connor, Bloomfield, Michigan. Anthony O'Dwyer, Westminster, Maryland. Alexander Payton, Houston, Texas. Dion Adora Michele Paun, Bucharesti, Romania. Tia Peterson, Imperial Beach, California. Peter Quinn, Fort Worth, Texas. Nicholas Rabelais, Ponder, Texas. James Rear, St. Paul, Minnesota. Theodora Reiter, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. Connor Robinson, Westminster, Colorado. Thomas Robinson, Homewood, Alabama. Jackson Rogers, Chicago, Illinois. Ezra Rosenberg, New Milford, Connecticut. Tabitha Rutledge, Phoenix, Arizona. Sal Sonago, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Violet Saradin, Chicago, Illinois. Woosak So Suwon, Republic of Korea. Yukyong So, Seoul, Republic of Korea. Devin Sexton, Centennial, Colorado. William Soderberg, Boulder, Colorado. Dean Soyoto, Van Nuys, California. Isaac Strauss, Edmonds, Washington. Sarah Thayer, Upper Arlington, Ohio. Felix Tower, Baltimore, Maryland. Isaac Vale, Akron, Ohio. Magnolia Vandiver, Penobscot, Maine. Simon Whitaker, Freeport, Maine. Luke Weidenhouse, Washington, District of Columbia. Spencer Wollerton, Earlysville, Virginia. Orville Wright, Centerville, Virginia. Reagan Yang, Covington, Washington. Finn Yekple, New Orleans, Louisiana. Alexander Ilatalo, Stamford, Connecticut. Julianne Yoder, Pine Bush, New York.
Let the 2025 candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in Liberal Arts stand. Associate Dean Boyle, the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts stand before you.
I, the Associate Dean for Graduate Programs, bear witness that these scholars have applied themselves among us to the program of studies in the Graduate Institute, and that they have successfully completed the program in the liberal arts.
We, the President, the Associate Dean, and the tutors of St. John's College in Annapolis, Maryland, in accordance with the orders of the trustees, in this public session on the 10th day of May 2025, bear witness that these scholars have reached the degree of Master of Arts. In witness of this, we have on the aforesaid day and year subscribed out names to these letters, which have been confirmed by the Great Seal of the College. By command of the Board of Visitors and Governors of St. John's College, I admit you to the degree of Master of Arts in Liberal Arts.
The 2025 graduates for the degree of Master of Arts who are joining us remotely will be recognized by the Associate Dean. Those who are here with us today will come forward as their names are called.
Those joining us remotely: Michael Cowitt, Kingston, Massachusetts. Edward Cruz, Claremore, Oklahoma. Jennifer Geyer, Pound Ridge, New York. James Hollinser, Stevensville, Maryland. Francis Lee, Garden Grove, California. Kelly Lindquist Ray, Gallup, New Mexico. Luis Sanchez, Villa Vicencio, Colombia. Jeffrey Toomey, Evans, Georgia. Mark Wheeler, Hickory, North Carolina. And Jonathan Wright, Stone Ridge, New York. Lola Bonder, Woodside, California. Stephen Borsum, Billings, Montana. Hassan Bulares, Rockville, Maryland. Keys Buka, Riva, Maryland. Cynthia Crane, accompanied by Frankie, Charlotte, North Carolina. Charmaine D'Souza, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Claudio Estrada, Annapolis, Maryland. Genevieve Fowler, Somerville, Massachusetts. Ethan Grofflow, Londonderry, New Hampshire. Colby Gilly, Molino, Florida. Paul Harland White, Annapolis, Maryland. John Harwood, Canton, Ohio. Melissa Hickenbotham, Rockaway, New Jersey. Kyle Kaufman, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Albert Kirakosian, Yerevan, Armenia. Luke Clausen, Winkler, Canada. James Kiker, Traveler's Rest, South Carolina. Alana Lagrave, Alexandria, Virginia. Daniel Levy, Severn, Maryland. Jinrui Liao, Burke, Virginia. Mark Lovell, Sydney, Australia. Charles Maciati, San Antonio, Texas. Jonathan McKenney, North Bay, Canada. Jordan Park, Bedford, New Hampshire. Emily Price, Richmond, Virginia. Shirley Kuo, Perth, Australia. Amanda Sansonetti, San Diego, California. Jules Speece, North Bethesda, Maryland. Allison Strachan, Vinyl Haven, Maine. Robert Varnell, Davidsonville, Maryland. Jennifer Ward, Charlestown, West Virginia. Samuel Weaver, Sarasota, Florida. Stuart Williams, Yarmouth, Maine. Weston Wright, Baltimore, Maryland.
Congratulations to all of our graduates. We wish you all the good in the world, and as you take this education with you into the rest of your lives, remember not only to be courageous, but to be temperate, to be broad-minded, to be magnificent, to be magnanimous, to be ambitious, to be patient, to be a friend, to be truthful, to display wit, to display modesty, and to seek out righteousness. As a signal of your completed graduation, you may now move your tassel from the left to the right. I now ask everyone to rise. At the conclusion of the academic procession, please join us on the back lawn for a reception with your friends and families. Thank you all for being with us, and once again, congratulations to all who are celebrating today.